Have you ever watched someone speaking English? Just so smooth and confident and thought, wow, how do they do that?
Yeah, or maybe you've heard someone speaking super fast and thought, okay, that's fluency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to dive into some of those common ideas about English speaking confidence and what fluency really looks like.
That's right. We're going to explore these beliefs, the ones that might actually be holding you back, and hopefully help you see what truly builds that confidence and fluency.
Okay, great. So let's kick off with the big one, this idea that some people are just, well, naturally confident speakers. You see them, right? Chatting away, totally at ease. Seems like they were born that way. What's the deal with that?
It's definitely something a lot of people think, and you can see why sometimes. But the interesting thing is confidence in speaking isn't necessarily like a fixed personality thing, like being an extrovert or introvert.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Even people who might describe themselves as shy or, more introverted, they can absolutely become confident speakers. It's achievable.
That's really good to hear. Because sometimes it feels like the really outgoing people just have this massive head start. You mentioned introverts and extroverts processing things differently. Could you maybe elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. So people who lean more towards extroversion often tend to think out loud. They sort of talk through their ideas, organizing them as they speak.
Right. I know people like that.
Yeah. Whereas introverts, typically, they prefer to process things internally first, think it through in their head before they say it. And honestly, that's not a disadvantage at all.
Really?
No. In fact, it can be a huge strength, especially when you're, say, speaking English and maybe need that extra moment to process what you're hearing or planning to say.
Okay, so instead of feeling pressured to just jump in, someone who thinks first can actually use that tendency. That's kind of empowering.
Exactly. For introverts, or really for anyone feeling a bit anxious about speaking English, just allowing yourself that moment to prepare, even just sort of a brief pause in conversation, it makes a huge difference.
How so?
Well, it lets you gather your thoughts, right? Get them in order so you feel more in control when you actually speak.
Right. That makes total sense. So practically speaking, how does someone do that in a real conversation? Like, what if you just need a second?
Yeah, good question. That's where having a few little phrases up your sleeve can be super helpful, just to buy yourself that thinking time.
Like what?
Something simple like, just give me a moment to think about that, or that's an interesting point. Let me just process that. Even, could you come back to me in a second on that? It gives you breathing room without, stopping the conversation cold.
Okay, yeah, I could see how having those ready would definitely ease the pressure.
Okay.
Cool. Now let's switch gears. Another common belief. Fluent English means fast English.
Ah, yes. The speed myth.
Yeah. You hear people talking a mile a minute, and it's so easy to think, wow, they're fluent.
It is easy to think that, and sometimes media portrays it that way. But actually, speaking really fast doesn't automatically mean fluency. In fact, it can often make it harder for people to understand you.
Even for native speakers.
Oh, absolutely. Even native speakers can talk so quickly that other native speakers struggle to keep up. It just becomes a blur.
So if it's not about speed, what is fluency then? What should people actually aim for instead of just trying to talk faster?
That's key. Fluency is really about smooth, natural, and importantly, clear communication. It's about being able to express yourself comfortably, being understood, and feeling, in control of the language.
Clarity over speed. I like that.
Exactly. The goal should always be clarity, making sure your message lands.
Okay, but what about pausing? I sometimes worry that if I pause too much, it makes me sound hesitant, less fluent.
That's another really important point. Skilled speakers, they actually use pauses strategically. It's not always a sign of hesitation.
Oh, how so?
Well, they pause to breathe, obviously, but also to stay calm, to organize their next thought, maybe choose the perfect word, check their grammar, think about pronunciation, and crucially, pauses add clarity. They emphasize points.
So a pause isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can actually be a tool.
Precisely. Think about really good public speakers or presenters. Watch them. They use pauses deliberately. It gives the listener time to absorb the information. It adds weight to what they're saying. It's a powerful communication technique, not a weakness.
Huh. Okay, that completely reframes how I think about pausing. That's really helpful. All right, here's another one I think a lot of learners grapple with. Feeling like you should understand everything perfectly, and that asking for clarification somehow makes you look, I don't know, less competent.
Yes, that fear is real for many people, but honestly, the reality is quite the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. Truly confident speakers, when they don't understand something, they actively seek clarification. They ask. It's actually a sign of engagement. It shows you're listening properly and you care about understanding correctly.
So instead of just nodding along hoping you got it, which, let's be honest, can lead to problems later,
Right.
it's actually more confident to just ask.
Absolutely. It shows respect for the communication process. It says, I value understanding this properly. It's a strength, not a weakness.
Okay, so what are some good, maybe less awkward ways to ask someone to repeat themselves or explain something?
Oh, there are some great simple phrases like, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Would you mind saying that again? Or, I'm not sure I'm following you completely. Could you explain what you mean by, specifying the bit you missed?
Oh.
Even just, would you mind repeating that is perfectly fine. The key is practicing them, maybe saying them out loud to yourself so they feel natural when you actually need them in a conversation.
Those are great, really practical. I can see how just having those ready would boost your confidence in those tricky moments. Okay, now, let's talk about something I think everyone relates to, making mistakes. That feeling when you mess up a word or your grammar goes sideways, do confident speakers just not do that?
Oh, goodness, no. That idea that confident speakers are somehow perfect, that they never fumble or lose their train of thought, that's totally unrealistic.
Phew. Okay, that's a relief to hear. Because sometimes, especially when you're learning, it feels like you're the only one messing up.
Not at all. Look, everyone, even highly experienced native speakers, forgets words sometimes, makes slips of the tongue, gets grammar slightly wrong, or just has a moment where their brain blanks. It happens.
So practice helps prevent them, but doesn't eliminate them entirely.
Exactly. Consistent practice definitely helps reduce mistakes and gives you better recovery skills, but they will still happen occasionally. The really important thing is learning how to handle them when they do.
Okay, so what is the best way to handle a mistake mid-conversation? Do you just ignore it?
Well, the first step is don't panic. Don't get flustered. Just take a tiny pause, maybe a quick breath. Calm yourself for a second.
Okay, then what?
When you've got options, you could quickly correct yourself. You could clarify what you intended to say. A brief, oops, sorry can work. Or if the situation feels right, maybe even a lighthearted comment about it, whoops, wrong word. The main thing is to acknowledge it briefly, if needed, and then just keep going. Don't let it derail you.
And finding places where you can make mistakes without feeling judged is probably key too, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely crucial. Finding safe spaces to practice, whether it's with a patient friend, a language exchange partner, a tutor, or even just talking to yourself where it's okay to stumble, that's incredibly important. It removes that pressure to be perfect and lets you actually learn from the mistakes.
That's such good advice. Okay, this leads nicely into our last sort of myth or idea we wanted to unpack. This feeling that confidence is just something you have or you don't, like it's fixed.
The all or nothing view of confidence. Yeah, that's a really limiting belief, and thankfully it's just not true.
So you can develop it. It's not like eye color.
Definitely not. Confidence in speaking English is absolutely attainable for everyone. It's something that grows over time with effort and experience. Every single confident speaker you admire started somewhere. They learned, they practiced, they made tons of mistakes, they learned from those mistakes, and they just kept going.
So what we see is kind of the highlight reel, maybe. Not all the awkward practice sessions and fumbles along the way.
That's a perfect way to put it. You see the result, the performance, not the messy process behind it. Confidence is built brick by brick through action.
You mentioned a kind of confidence building cycle earlier. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, sure. It's basically this. You learn something new, maybe a grammar point or some vocabulary. Then, and this is key, you take action. You actually try using it.
Okay.
That action, that practice, leads to improvement in your ability, even small improvements. When you notice that improvement, it starts to shift how you see yourself. Your self-belief gets a little boosted. That builds your confidence, which then motivates you to learn and try more. So it's learn, act, improve, believe, build confidence, get motivated, and the cycle continues. But the engine driving it all is action, actually speaking.
Action is the key. That's really motivating. Okay, so for someone listening right now who wants to take action, what are some concrete, practical things they can do to start building that speaking confidence?
Oh, there's loads. Okay, so first, practice vocabulary and grammar daily, but focus on learning whole phrases, not just isolated words. Makes it easier to use them.
Got it. Phrases.
Yeah, and pronunciation work on it actively. Use online tools, apps, whatever helps. Shadowing is brilliant for this.
Shadowing.
Yeah, where you listen to a native speaker, could be a podcast, news, anything, and you repeat exactly what they say, trying to match their rhythm, their intonation, their speed. It really tunes your ear and your mouth.
Okay, like mimicking.
Exactly. Mimic actors in TV shows, record yourself speaking, and compare it to native speakers. That can be really eye-opening. And crucially, reframe mistakes. See them as learning opportunities. Maybe even keep a little mistake journal, not to beat yourself up, but to learn from them. Be kind to yourself, practice self-compassion, try visualization, picture yourself speaking confidently before you actually have to do it. Immerse yourself, change your phone language, watch movies in English.
Little things add up.
Totally. Try having tiny micro conversations whenever you can. Join online communities or local groups. Learn conversation fillers, those little words like, they give you thinking time naturally.
Right, like we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Pay attention to body language too, yours and others. Smile. Try to make eye contact. Use open gestures. Practice telling simple stories about your day, a memory, anything. Listen actively when others speak English, notice their rhythm, and just speak. Speak English every day, even if it's just talking to yourself in the shower. Focus on speaking clearly, maybe slow down a bit at first.
Wow, okay, that's a lot of actionable stuff.
Yeah, the point is there are many, many ways to take action. Find what works for you and start small. So, just to kind of wrap up the main points we hit today, that idea that confidence is innate, nope, it's built. Fast speaking isn't the same as fluent speaking. Clarity is king, asking for clarification. Smart move shows you're engaged. Mistakes, everyone makes them. It's all about how you bounce back. And finally, confidence isn't a yes-no thing. It absolutely grows with practice and taking action.
That's a fantastic summary. Really clear. Okay, so for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to think. Was there one belief about speaking English that you held that maybe this chat has challenged a bit? And how might shifting that belief change how you approach your learning, your practice? What's maybe one small action, just one thing from all those ideas that you could commit to trying this week? If you found this deep dive helpful, please do give us a thumbs up, maybe subscribe so you don't miss our future chats, and hitting that bell icon helps too. And definitely leave a comment below. We'd love to hear what resonated with you or what you learned today.